So you're thinking of getting a back tattoo. Congratulations, if you get a back tattoo, you won't regret it. With the decision to get a back tattoo come a lot of other things to consider overall. The style of tattoo you want to get, the design, the placement, the amount of pain, as well as healing. So there's a lot to think about when you are considering getting a back tattoo, which is why I wanted to make today's video. What qualifications do I have to talk about back tattoos? Well, my back is tattooed. I'll insert a clip of it here so you can check mine out. And I will break down each session that I went through because I took a lot of notes on every single session, pain level associated with it, and my experience overall. But before we get into it, welcome to my channel if you're new here. I like to make videos about lifestyle, spirituality, and self-development, but today we're gonna be talking about back tattoos. There are a lot of valuable reasons why the back is such an amazing spot to get tattooed on. One is that if you're somebody that can't be very visually tattooed, nobody is going to see that you have your back tattooed unless you take your shirt off, which if you have a professional job that doesn't let you have tattoos, I don't see why you'd be taking your shirt off at work. It's a really discreet place to get tattooed where you can still get something that is meaningful to you, that you enjoy, but it's not something that you have to worry about everybody else seeing. Another reason why the back is such an awesome place to get tattooed is because it is the largest flat area on your body that you can get tattooed. It's not like an arm where the design could be really cool, but it has to wrap around. And sometimes you can lose some of that detail if it's a piece of art that you are super into. I'm not gonna talk about finding an artist. That's something that I think is pretty easy nowadays, utilizing like Google, going on Instagram, using hashtags. There are so many ways to find artists depending on whether you want to travel, if you're going to go to a tattoo convention, or if you're just going to search locally. For me, because I live in Salem, there are a lot of amazing tattoo artists here, so I'm really lucky in that respect. I went to Ninth Realm Gallery and saw Gabe, who is the owner, and he does just the most kick-ass photorealistic black and gray pieces. So he was the perfect person to go to for this project. And I think a very important part in that is when you're picking your artist, pick an artist where you really like their style, you like the composition of their pieces, because you have to have a lot of faith in them and kind of give them some creative freedom to be an artist. And that's when you can get a really cool piece. I can touch a little bit on finances because I'm sure people are wondering how much of an investment your back is going to be. I will just tell you that I saved up $10,000 for this project, and I spent all of that money. But I really think it depends on a lot of different factors. First and foremost, the style that you're getting. It also just depends on how much your artist charges, whether they do hourly or if they have a day rate. And that's just something that you're gonna have to communicate with your artist. But I would say do some research, like literally go on and ask ChatGPT, I want a American traditional back tattoo, approximately how many sessions would that take and how much would that cost? But don't do this expecting that is going to be how much it is, rather just to be able to have a starting point where you can save money over time for that piece. It's always good to have money saved up in advance, just so when you go into it, there's nothing like too shocking about the transaction. If your artist has on their social media pages what their day rate is or what their hourly rate is, that can be helpful as well. The way that I like to think about it too is your back is like the equivalent of the skin of your arm rolled out like 2 or 3 times depending on how broad your shoulders are, how large of a person you are. Like if you're a bodybuilding guy, you're gonna have more of an area to cover than a girl who's like 5'2" or something. So just keep that in mind. It's a very large area that you're getting tattooed, and it's going to take longer and might cost more than other pieces that you might have. If you're getting something on your shoulder blade or like your lower back or something and it's just like a smaller piece, it's gonna be totally different because that's something that you could probably bang out in a session or two and be done with it. My experience of getting my back tattooed was a multi-session project to go from literally my neck all the way down to my butt crack and wrapped around the sides. So my entire back is covered. So composition. The main design ideas I gave my artist was the death's head moth, of course, which is what I ended up with. But I also gave a couple other things that I would be interested in for my back, which was a bee. I like bees. My name is actually Greek for honeybee, so I've always enjoyed the imagery of bees, or an owl. No reason for that really, aside from visually I think they look really cool and I think it would look nice for an artistic piece. I love the look of filigree and just those design elements. So I wanted that. And I also at the beginning said like gemstones with like dripping gems underneath it. I work for a jewelry company and I love the way like jewelry piece tattoos look. So maybe some of that element in there as well. So those are all the things I kind of threw at him. And we spent a good time in our little consultation session going over potential placements. I didn't want it, if I got a bee and a death's head moth, to look like shadow boxes of insects next to each other. That's not really the vibe I wanted. So he showed me a lot of different options, including like the death's head moth not being like perfectly across, but kind of like being sideways. I also saw some options not including the death's head moth at all and just being an owl with some other design elements. There's a lot of different options for me to choose from, and we worked together moving things around, putting new things in to finally come up with the final design, which is what I have now. All right, I've been talking for a while about everything before even getting the tattoo. So now I want to talk about each of the sessions that I had, what was done in those sessions, what my experience was. I had 12 sessions done on my back so far. And I say so far because my back is technically not finished yet. I have about 1 or 2 sessions more to finish up on the sides. The very first session was April 18th, 2021. That first day was mostly about placing the stencil and doing a gray line. In total, I was only getting tattooed for about 3.5 hours, but the majority of my time being there was placing the stencil. For such a large area like I was getting, which was from my neck all the way down to my booty crack, my artist had to be sure that everything lined up perfectly. And the way that he put the stencil down was not like one big stencil and then peeled it off. It was in multiple different segments. So he had to place each one down, make sure it lined up. I did a lot of like bending over, moving side to side, making sure that when I moved that it still fit my body. I have a picture of what my back looked like before. It's just a plain back. I don't know why I took a before photo, but I also have a picture of the initial stencil. You can see the roses weren't stenciled yet. The only stencil that I had down for the first session was all the filigree, the moth, obviously, and then he hand drew in where he wanted to put like the roses and that initial idea of doing a gemstone. I don't have anything there right now because it's not something that we were able to start yet. Once it was all placed, my artist went and did a gray line of all of the outlines, which essentially is just diluted ink. That's almost like if you were drawing with a pencil instead of like a marker. The gray line is just to make sure that he can still see it so that when he goes back in to do the actual tattoo, he doesn't have to reset any stencils or replace anything. It's already there. So I had said that it was a little pokey at the very beginning, but it became a little easier over time. My second session was on May 13th, 2021, and the time of me actually getting tattooed was about 4.5 hours, so not too bad for that one. In this session, we did a gray line of the roses and beginning shading on the middle rose. It was just the lighter shading, putting things down, getting like an idea of what things are gonna look like. My third session was on June 10th, 2021. I put 5 3/4 hours. So like 5 hours and 45 minutes, I guess. We started on the left side and I had to use numbing spray for the first time in my life. The numbing spray was amazing. He applied it at about 5:30 and I felt nothing for an hour. Then he moved to a spot where there wasn't any of the numbing spray and it hurt a little bit again, but it was so amazing when he put the spray on. I actually ran into some issues with it later on where it wasn't healing my tattoos very well. Like the white in it was turning like yellow, and over time we did have to kind of phase that out. But at the time, it was amazing. It got me through a lot of long sessions where I felt like tapping out, but it got me through a couple more hours. You do have to be careful, of course, with numbing products because too much lidocaine can be really bad for you. So use that with caution. But the Vasocaine, girl, I didn't feel anything. It felt like he was just writing on my skin with a pencil or something. Like no pain at all with the numbing spray, even though that was kind of short-lived. My next session was October 15th, 2021, and I was getting tattooed for 7.5 hours. I mean, obviously we did take breaks as well, but it's just a lot for your body, mentally, physically. Being in pain for that long, it is a lot. You gotta mentally prepare for it. So during this 7.5 hour session, I said it was so easy. The solution he used to wipe was mixed with Bactine, so it was constantly being numbed. There were some annoying parts, but mostly good. He did some backgrounds in the bottom, middle, and top parts, and also worked more on the left flower and started the right flower. Watched almost entire Squid Game show. That session was great because Squid Game is a great show anyway, so I was very invested in it, and it took my brain off of the pain. Also, like I mentioned, he had mixed some Bactine in with his solution that he was wiping, and I found that to be such a relief. I was going very regularly these first couple of months just because I had the availability to do so. So this was December 5th, 2021. I was getting tattooed for 6 hours that day, and I said it was okay. Left side is worse than right. Bactine made life easier and needed it a ton at the end when we went back to the left side. Did most of the leaves on the bottom and did more of a rose. The bottom's almost done. So definitely more creating depth, going back into spaces that were already tattooed, and basically finalizing the bottom portion. My next session was March 27th, 2022, and I was tattooed for 6 hours that day. This session hurt a lot. I started on the death's head moth, which is the center of my back, kind of on my spine. And I had to take multiple breaks for numbing because it was just very painful. One thing that I was not prepared for was the sensation of the needle grinding against my bones. So if you reach behind your back and feel towards the middle, you'll feel like your spine, but you'll also see that you can feel the back portion of your ribs. They're bumpy. I could like feel the vibration of it in my core. It's terrible. Moving on to the next session, which was June 3rd, 2023, was a 6 hour session. And this one I said was not as bad as some that were in the past. My artist used Bactine twice for finishing up the wings. He did have to use some heavier numbing before doing the white throughout the wings, and I didn't feel anything when he used that. So this was still like the Vasocaine. Swear to God, that thing makes you feel nothing. Similarly to previous experiences, it seemed like the left side also hurt more than the right side. And I also felt physically sick afterwards, which that sometimes happens. You get a little tattoo flu. Like I remember this particular day very vividly. I got home and I just had to lay on the couch because I felt just terrible. My next session, which if you're keeping count is the 8th session, was on August 20th, 2023, and that was a 6 hour session. This was a weird experience because I started having the tickles. That's just kind of what I call it. I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about this, but there's just certain like trigger points on my back that like gives that like arch to my back because it tickles, but it would also be accompanied with like a lot of pain. Even with just his finger, like if he was like touching my back, I'd be like tickly. I don't know why I was so tickly this day. He used Bactine on me at first, but I still felt everything. He tried to move on to another place, but after it was unbearable, so we stopped. And I actually legitimately got the tattoo flu after. I had a fever of 100 degrees when I got home. I felt super sick and I went to sleep really early and slept for 11 hours that night. But nothing would prepare me for how bad my next session was during my actual session. So up until this point, I was doing really well. I was sitting for the full like 6-7 hour sessions, but there was just something about this next session that was different. I mean, every day is going to be different. The state that you're in beforehand really can change your experience of getting tattooed. I only sat for 4 hours this day, which is one of the smallest amount that I've had so far, aside from the day that I got my initial stencil placed. Yeah, 4 hours was rough. And I said, today sucked so much. We started on the left side and it was actually more painful on the right side this time. I had to tap out early since the Bactine wasn't helping. It literally brought me to tears at one point. Not where I was like sobbing in his chair, but like I had like the little tears in my eyes and I was like, I need to fucking get out of this chair because I'm gonna die. And I was physically shaking when I was leaving. I think I was just pushing my body too much. Because at this time I recently had gotten my hand tattooed, even though my hand was not bad at all. I also had stretched up my ears pretty recently. I also got my philtrum pierced pretty recently. So there's just a point where you have to be able to recognize like, okay, I think I'm pushing it. Like, I think I was pushing it, but I just was in like go, go, go mode. I want to get these things done. I already had this appointment scheduled because I had scheduled out a couple appointments and I didn't want to like reschedule. So in hindsight, I would definitely not push my body to that extent anymore. You need to give yourself time to heal between getting body modifications. That's so important. And I had to learn the hard way through this terrible experience of feeling like I wasted my time and also feeling like I wasted my artist's time as well, because working on a large scale like this, you kind of expect to sit through longer sessions, and I just couldn't do it that day. So I was really disappointed in myself, but I did learn for the future, don't push yourself too much if it's not something that you feel like you can handle. So my next session, I really went back with a different mindset, and I wanted to be able to sit and not tap out and just do the full session like we had planned. This was on December 10th, 2023. It was only actually 5 hours. I don't think that was something I tapped out at, but I said it wasn't nearly as bad. We extended the filigree to my upper back, and then we went back in to add black parts to the moth, so get some more depth to the moth as well as the filigree. This was the time that we stopped using Vasocaine because my artist noticed that it was not healing very well on my body, and it was kind of changing the white color to this yellowy, almost like a brown. It was a bit darker. And you can definitely see it in the picture on the filigree where it turned dark. I also will mention though, my body doesn't like white very well. Randomly, even on tattoos that have been healed for years and years, like my arm, the white portions will randomly get bumpy again and be itchy. So I think my body just reacts very strangely to white ink. And on top of that, my artist was just linking that to using the numbing. I think he might have also seen it in some other people, and he just didn't want that to happen again. So no more Vasocaine, it was just Bactine if I wanted a little bit of relief from that edge. So he tried to go back in and fix a little bit of that color. I also said this time the right side felt more pain, and I didn't use any numbing until the end for the white highlights. He just used a spritz of Bactine and it was fine. My next session was April 7th, 2024. So a couple months in between. I forgot to take a photo. My session was 5 hours long, and we worked on the filigree more as well as the head of the moth. The right side was easier than the left, so kind of flip-flopped. The left side was harder again. I didn't use Bactine or numbing stuff at all, but I was super sore the next day. The last session that I had, the most recent, was June 26, 2024. My artist is so awesome for coming through on this one, because once I got engaged, I kind of went to him and was like, so I'm getting married soon, and I know we started bottom to top, but my wedding dress, you can only see the top. And basically the goal was just to get enough done on the top portion where it looks finished enough, where it's not like super obvious that it's not. I forgot to write how long that I was sitting for this day, but we worked on the upper filigree and the shading on the top onto the neck. I mean, I can only assume that my last session had to be at least 5 hours. So with all of that, I'm at 64 hours total of tattooing, actual tattooing on my back. So if you're not ready for that type of time commitment, that level of pain, I would say maybe don't get a photorealism piece on your back. I really love my tattoo, but it's really fucking painful, and I wouldn't want to do it again. I'm happy that it's mostly done. There's just a couple more sessions left to finish up, but it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. All in all though, I absolutely love the way my back turned out, especially being able to have it done for my wedding was amazing. I just think it looked absolutely beautiful. People always say that tattoos will look so terrible on your wedding day. I don't get where that comes from. I think they looked absolutely amazing, and it's everything I could have wanted. One last thing I want to touch on is the fact that it is on my back. I feel like a lot of people have asked, well, don't you forget it's there. Such a massive investment financially for something that you're not even seeing every day. And I get where people are coming from, but I see my back tattoo like all the time. I don't know, I just look at it all the time. I always know it's there. If you're the type of person who thinks that you will just forget that it's there and it would be like a waste of money, then maybe make that be like a last spot for you to get a tattoo once you run out of room or something, and put your tattoo somewhere that you can visually see more. It's never been something that bothers me personally. I always make time to look at it and appreciate it and love it. But if that's something that you're worried about, I would get it somewhere else. I do miss my artist. I gotta go see him one day and finish it up, because the sides are definitely not done yet. Okay, I'm gonna try to show the sides so you guys can see where I need to do a little bit more. So right here, obviously this petal right here is unfinished. I have another tattoo here that's kind of in the way, but just the petals on that side. And on this side, I have even more to do. I have leaves up here and then some petals on this side. But aside from that, it is almost done. If you have any questions about my experience, or if there's anything that you think that I missed, there's a lot of information all at once, and I wanted to try to make it all in one video, everything about my back tattoo. So if there's anything you think that I missed that you have questions about, please leave them down below. Otherwise, I hope to see you guys in my next one. Bye.